Welcome to A Gallon of Questions. My name is Pat Gallen, and over the last couple of weeks, we have had to deal with interesting scenarios surrounding Sixers star center Joel Embiid. We know he isn't playing yet because of left knee management, but then he also gets himself into an altercation with Marcus Hayes, columnist from the Philadelphia Inquirer, in the locker room. He gets suspended 3 games. So it's been an interesting start to the Sixers season because not only was Joel Embiid missing, but Paul George just back from an injured knee, hyperextended that left knee. So he's back, but we await the return of the big man. And to talk all about the stuff that's been going on with Joel Embiid, we bring in my old friend Devon Givens from PHLY Sports. Devon, as you know, as someone who has been in this city a long time, there is never a dull moment.
Never. Even when you have such goodwill like the Sixers did coming from the offseason, even when Joel Embiid plays on his knee and for Team USA wins a gold medal, a little pushback there, but a lot of people were saying, you know what, good for him. He won something. This might mean something really good for the Sixers season. And unfortunately, then they just drop it all right there. And
that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. The goodwill from that Paul George signing because
and everything else.
And everything else. But
else.
For mostly that, like, it felt good to win the offseason and to know, okay, maybe Paul George, the perfect fit for this offseason probably. In future years, he's 35. It's going to be 36, 37.
Yep.
Maybe not, but we'll kick the can down the road. We'll worry about that later, except then he gets hurt like the first time he touches the floor. And are they cursed? Well, I want to start there. Are the Sixers cursed? And where does that curse start?
Yeah, that's a great question. Are they cursed? I wouldn't say that they're cursed. You know the whole thing about the Billy Penn statue and all that stuff. So you can maybe go there and say that is a part of the problem, but other teams have one in the city and the Sixers have not. So I wouldn't say that they're cursed yet, but again, the goodwill that they did just build up from the offseason, not just from the Paul George, but then tailing that with everything else that followed, with the roster that they constructed and looking like that. Yet again, they'll be a contending team, but this time maybe they'll be able to get over the hump of the second round and possibly even push into the NBA Finals. Now, that's still yet to be determined, but the knee buckle of Paul George in the playoffs, bone bruise. And a lot of people were really worried about that because it's a bone bruise, but those things can linger and it can be a problem, and it can really, really hinder you from being yourself. And already at the age of 34, as good as he is, even still at this age, a bone bruise coming into this season with Embiid already not playing back-to-backs. At the old age of 35, yes. And Embiid not playing back-to-backs, people were a little up in arms about that. But I don't think they're cursed. And the good part about it, though, we're only 6 games in.
Right.
So you would prefer for it to happen now rather than in February and most certainly in April when the playoffs get underway. So while we still have to weather the storm and get through everything, at least it happened now. The problem is you get off to a 1-5 start and people are ticked off.
It's interesting you say weather the storm because you could say, okay, they're not cursed, but we have had the weather about an 8-year storm, maybe more, maybe about 10 years from when Embiid was drafted and then didn't play for the first 2 years. So we're talking about a decade-long storm weathering here.
A lot of slickers.
We need some rain jackets. And we need fresh gear. But before we get into like the whole, because I want to talk to you about what it looks like when the big three finally get together, which hopefully happens soon. The Embiid situation with Marcus Hayes, who we both know well from our time in this city and covering all the teams. He was suspended 3 games without pay for shoving him, an altercation in the locker room. He is eligible to return Tuesday against the Knicks. Give me your thoughts on this situation from start to finish, how it was handled by all parties.
Interesting because the initial story that Marcus had written, as much as Embiid talks about his brother and his son, about how he wants to leave a legacy and leave a really good legacy with his name and his brother, Arthur, who had passed away, and he naming his son after his late brother because of their close relationship, you understand how much it means to him. So whatever you want to say about Joel Embiid, if you've been around him long enough, you know how much, of course, that meant to him when he lost his brother and how important his life has changed since his son has been born. So with that, I thought that they should have been left out of the story. I thought that was a little bit too far. You can make your message without bringing those two up. Even though Joel brought them up and he put them out there, doesn't mean that you should include them in the story. So with that part, I thought that could have been handled differently.
Sure.
And then when Embiid spoke post-practice the day before the game, and he mentioned how frustrated he was. He mentioned Marcus by name.
Yep.
And Marcus shows up to the game, post-game the next day, and Embiid just lost it. And you can understand it.
Sure.
You bringing somebody like that into your family. The only issue I had with Embiid was you have too much now when we talk about the goodwill. You have too much bad things tailing you right now because of the back-to-backs, because of the fact that the team is not looking good with you out on the floor. Maybe you don't need that right now.
Sure.
Handle that maybe behind closed doors where other media members are not there. I don't know how they do that. I'm sure they could have set that up somehow, but they did not.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where I went on Embiid and saying you gotta compose yourself and not let that happen.
Even beyond the altercation, if we're looking at his issues outside of that, how would you handle Joel moving forward? Because, he's at age 30. He has never played more than 68 games in a season, averaging around 54 played per year. Do you have issues with how that piece of the situation was handled preseason by Embiid, by the Sixers? Because a lot of people were looking for answers, and we were sort of being pushed into like this grayish area.
They were upfront about the back-to-backs. No problem about that.
Right.
No issue there because we know that he's probably can't handle all 15 of the back-to-backs.
Sure.
And just because he's a competitor, there are going to be times, like he said, even at training camp, that they're going to have to fight me and I'm going to have to fight them to stay off the floor at times. Yeah. So he's going to maybe play a few back-to-backs just because of the competitive nature. He felt good the night before, so why not play night two? Because I'm really feeling good about what I did
no doubt.
Against Team X. So the only issue I had with the Sixers part was just the message being out there about the injury itself, of what it was. And they felt they were answering it, and it just didn't necessarily jive with how things were being portrayed out there, with the words that they were putting out there, with his injury, his availability, when he's going to come back. Because a lot of people felt, at least we were led to believe that he would play game one.
Yep.
Nationally televised game against Milwaukee. The goodwill that was put there from the offseason, the Team USA part of it, and going against another competing team in the Eastern Conference that you might be fighting for some seeding.
Absolutely.
In the conference, that you would get a chance to see those two teams, those two stars with Giannis on the other side face off. And then you miss the Toronto game on Friday. You miss the Indiana Pacers game on Sunday. And maybe you come back against the Detroit Pistons the next week here at home, welcoming back Tobias Harris. So that's where I thought that
welcoming
back
in
he got the last laugh in that one in October. Right. In October, though.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing. I think it was just the messaging of how it was. And sometimes the players control the messaging too.
And I wanted to ask you about that because almost as well as anyone, the inner machine with how it works with the Sixers. Do you think that the messaging comes more from how Joel wanted to handle it or how the team wanted to handle it?
I would probably say somewhere both.
Okay.
But, a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say both, but a little bit of struggle.
It felt like Joel maybe trying to handle the messaging more from his perspective, and then maybe it getting lost in translation somewhere in there. Regardless, we're here now where we're going to have to deal with this all year. As you said, the back-to-backs probably aren't going to happen unless it's a really important game down the road, and we probably shouldn't expect him to play, obviously, more than 68 games, which is the max he's been. That's a generous number. Yeah. He hit that a couple of years ago, but somewhere in the 50-game range.
And remember, 65, you have to qualify for the postseason awards and acknowledgments.
And I think if fans had heard prior to the season, look, we're looking at a guy that can play 50 to 60 games per year, they would have been cool with that. So I think it then comes back to the fan base and how they feel because, look, ticket prices aren't going down despite your best player not playing in 30 or so games per year and you coming out and saying, well, we know for sure he's not going to play in at least 15 of them. I feel for the fans because You had the goodwill. You have a fan base that is stuck by you, for this tumultuous decade and doesn't seem to be going anywhere and is longing for a title in the same way that the coaches and staff and players are. So I just think the messaging there was wrong, pointed toward the fans.
And that's where it was, because the ticket prices are not going down. People are paying for these tickets. They buy season tickets, believing that they at least get a chance to see the big three.
Yeah.
Not just the postseason. We all know it's really about the postseason, but you have 41 games at home, and Sixer fans want to see them. Not to mention we've seen it plenty of times when the Golden State Warriors have come to Philadelphia, how people want to see Stephen Curry or LeBron James with the Cavs, Heat, Lakers, Michael Jordan. All of these names, Giannis. Other people want to see Joel Embiid in other cities and see him play, but because of his knee, he's not capable of playing as much as you would like to for a superstar. But at home, at least, you want to be honest and upfront with your fan base because of what you pointed out, that they're paying these ticket prices.
I'm ecstatic to see this big three finally get together, and it might take some time to gel, but I think we've seen – I'm not saying that Tyrese Maxey has reached his ceiling, but when he's the 1A, the top dog, I think we know the limitations with the offense. He's got limitations defensively, being a smaller guard, playmaking, creativity, whatever it might be. You add Paul George to the mix. They lose the other night, but you can see how the offense changes. When you add Joel Embiid to that, I think we can all agree that this might be something special, but they got to get there first. So looking ahead, what are you expecting once they all are healthy and on the court together?
I'm 100% with you, because that's where the excitement came from the offseason. Just projecting out and looking towards October, looking forward to seeing them on the floor for the first time together and seeing a point guard, a wing, and a big man, the elite big man of the elite with he and Jokic. And then, of course, Paul George, even being 34 years of age, still very, very good.
Is he 34?
34, yeah,
Is he
34,
really? Wow.
34, 35. Yeah, so
flies.
Being at that age and still, he's not prime 27 Paul George, where he was going head-to-head with LeBron James as a member of the Indiana Pacers, but he's still really good. That's why.
Oh, you were talking about Paul George being 35. Yeah. Or is Jokic? How old is Jokic now?
Jokic, he's probably
in his 30s. Okay, I thought you were talking
early
about
30.
him.
No. Paul George, 34. So yeah, man. I mean, just having those three, and while again, it's not in your prime, Paul George, he is still very good. He is still all-star level Paul George. You can talk about him being all NBA material because of the way that he still plays even at this age. So I want to see it, because we've been talking about this for years, about a wing, where they, from Jimmy Butler to some of the wings that they have drafted, some of the wings that they did not draft with Jason Tatum because of the Markelle Fultz piece. It was always, even when Ben Simmons was here, still a wing. And that's why you go and draft to draft certain names, and that's why you go and get Jimmy Butler, and that's why the talk was there about Jason Tatum at the time, because of the wings and what this league is, what the position is in this league, how valuable that position is. I cannot wait to see it. And now you have three all-star players at each position, and then you have constructed a team around them that has so much depth. Now, that depth is in question when Embiid and George are off the floor, and as you said, there are limitations with Tyrese Maxey being the one. But this team was put together with the 4 through 15 with the mind of 1, 2, and 3 being on the floor. So everybody's level was raised. It is not capable of sustaining that, even in the start of the season, where you're trying to new players, incorporate them into the offense and defense, and you're trying to integrate yourself a certain way. Now you're going up a level. You're down 10 points within a game. Oh, I have to score because Tyrese Maxey's being double-teamed. He's being blitzed. He's getting the ball out of his hands. I have to go do this, and therefore you have Caleb Martin, who's a very good player.
Yep.
But now he's taking 16 shots a game.
Right, not really his game.
Exactly. Yeah, unless you're in the playoffs against the Boston Celtics, where he goes off and he's MVP level for that series. But that's where I'm excited to see, because everything will now fall into place.
Yeah.
And while it will take some time, once it does actually play itself out, this is why I thought that they were a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference.
Still could happen. They've got a long way to go. Not a great
Only
start.
2 teams in the Eastern Conference over 500. That's Boston and Cleveland. That's it. So they're as bad as it has been, they're still in a pretty good spot.
Yeah. You are here. That
I am
means you
here.
get a gallon of questions.
Oh.
It's a very special moment.
Oh man. Oh man, I get a gallon of questions.
Devon
Look at
Givens
this.
is speechless. So let's see how many we can knock out here in the next couple of minutes. We
All right,
gotta
let's see.
maybe do a little rapid fire
All right,
here.
rapid fire here. Let's go.
You get the first one. Devon Givens, gallon of questions.
Favorite Sixers game of the rebuild era? Because you know I don't say the P word. I hated it. Wow. Favorite Sixers game of the
game
rebuild.
that stands out.
How far? This is obviously before
I guess since
Embiid
Joel has
gets-
started playing.
when he started playing.
Yeah, sure. So they're talking about.
So I'll go
last-
early then.
Okay.
I'll go early when he got on the floor.
Yes.
Number one, I'll say the favorite. I'll say one of the more memorable ones was Michael Carter Williams, game one against the Miami Heat, almost a quadruple double.
Yeah.
Didn't like the player, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
And then he goes out there and he becomes Rookie of the Year, and then he fades into where
Yeah.
he faded into.
Yep.
But I'll say my favorite one was Embiid's second year. After his rookie season where he played 31 games,
Yep.
second year, Los Angeles Lakers, and he put on a clinic in that game out in L.A.
Yes.
against the Los Angeles
Remember that.
Lakers. I believe it was somewhere around 40 double-digit rebounds, a decent assist number, a
Remember
decent
it.
amount of blocks. And I thought, okay, this guy has it all.
I
Seen
don't-
it already, but I know he has it all.
I don't remember the exact date or even which season it was, but one that stands out to me is the game against the Knicks where T.J. McConnell hits the game-winning turnaround shot, and they have that iconic picture of him,
Yeah.
of Joel holding T.J. McConnell's face. That one to me was a
Yes.
good one.
Yes.
All right, next question.
Yeah.
Best NBA analyst.
Whew.
Who's your favorite NBA analyst right now?
Are we talking broadcast?
We could do
studio.
in-game, we could do studio.
Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley.
Yeah, it's
still
not even
number
close.
one.
Yeah, Charles Barkley is number one, not even close. I'll even go to podcast route. Jeff Teague.
He will tell it like it is. I didn't know Jeff Teague had
I'm
that
not
in
saying
him.
he's an analyst, but he's funny.
He's analyzing something.
He is funny. Yes, he is. How many wins do the Sixers end up with this year? I said they would be around 53, 54 this year.
Okay.
Now with them getting off to the slower start,
Sure.
I'll drop them down right at 50.
50
The
wins.
over-under was 52.5, I believe, at the start
Definitely
of the
under
season.
that.
I'll give them 50.
Who's your favorite bench Sixer of all time?
All time.
Give me a guy who's on the bench who you're like, I love that dude.
Huh.
That's a very open-ended
That is
question.
a very
it takes a little bit of I'll let
open-ended
you,
question.
I'll vamp, like we say in radio talk, while you think about it.
I'll go just because it doesn't have to be when I was around the team and all. No, Aaron McKay.
Aaron McKay?
Easy. Aaron McKay. Sixth man of the year, 2000-2001 championship season, final season. Aaron McKay.
That's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Of the newer players, I always loved Robert Covington because he kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But
He
still
earned
upset
that.
a lot of people somehow.
Because he wouldn't put the ball on the floor
Yeah.
and not turn it over.
Yeah.
Or
That's
get a
a
good
good
shot
point.
off the
Good point.
What's one thing about the game you would like to see changed?
I know one thing that I have.
This is, honestly, I don't like the replay system.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, I just don't like it. I mean, I like
It's
the
a
fact
mess.
that you can
Sure.
do it, but I think it takes too long when they go through everything.
Yes.
And look, they're the ones at the replay center and then even looking at the table. Sometimes I still think they get it wrong.
Well,
I think
they
we
do.
all
They
do.
do.
We're like, wait a minute. No, he traveled. That ball went off of player X.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Tell me if you agree with this. Get rid of corner threes.
No.
Keep them.
Keep him.
I feel like the game is just now chucking as many three-pointers.
So
and
what
a
do you
lot
do?
from the
You just
corner.
cut the line off at certain
So at the
point?
break,
Yeah.
extend the break to the sideline, and
Okay.
then all threes above that, everything's a two below that. Because I think it
So
would
just
open,
wings and top of the key,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
'Cause then you can't hide out guys in the corner that really aren't. They're basically corner three specialists these days.
Trevor Ariza, man, he used to knock down that shot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Name your Mount Rushmore of radio people you've worked with.
Wow, that's a long time, man.
So you could put yourself on there and then pick three others.
You know me well enough, and I hope people know me out there to know I would not. Do
He would
that.
not do that, but you can if you want. So
I'll
you got to
start
pick
off with-
four people.
I start off with John Marks.
John Marks.
John Marks taught me the production side.
Yeah.
Taught me a lot about
Sure.
that.
Yep.
Taught me a lot about hosting.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm gonna leave a lot of.
So that's
people.
one.
That's one. Harry Mays
Harry Mays. Okay.
put me on the air first.
Is that right? I didn't know
he
that.
did. He and
All
Dan
right, all right.
Schwartzman. Yeah, they let me do a little
How about
fantasy
that?
football thing as an intern.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah,
I didn't know
so,
that.
Yeah, Harry Mays. I'll say Mike Missinelli.
Mike Missinelli.
Because of some of the things that he taught me as well.
Sure.
Believed in me.
Yeah.
When we would talk and, I didn't know, and I was a fan. And then Mike taught me a lot of things. So I would say Mike.
So that's 3.
Oh, man.
Got 1 left.
Can I combine them? Because I want to say Anthony and Tyrone Johnson.
Okay.
I'll merge those two.
So we got an extra.
And then Pat and John together. Pat Gallen and John Marks together.
All right, I'll take that. Fine. We got a large Mount Rushmore out there.
Oh, man.
If you had a pregame meal, what would it be?
Cheesesteak.
Yeah? You're going to burn it off anyway, right?
Yeah.
All right, go in there. We got time for one more question
home base,
here.
Man. Cheesesteak.
Love it.
Home base. All right, let's see. One more question. Most famous player you've ever played with or against?
Because you hooped.
Yeah.
For a
Alvin
long
Williams.
time. Alvin Williams.
Yeah, charity game.
Yeah, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. He put on that amoeba defense, that Big East defense on me, too.
And you couldn't do anything?
Game. I couldn't. Then luckily, the ref bailed me out and called a foul on Alvin. What up, Al?
He was just being nice. That's it.
Yeah, man. He put, the strong forearm in the back, and I'm like,
Forget it,
whoa, I can't move that. But no, played against a lot of guys in high school that ultimately turned into some good players, but Alvin Williams.
That's a good one.
In a charity game.
Alvin Williams.
Yeah.
Devon Givens, thank you so much for coming in.
No, this was fun. Thank you.
And hitting the gallon of questions
Love
perfectly. Chef's kiss. Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.